Hello, Seka.
Dude, I'm just getting over being sick. What is it?
Well, the Blackcliff weapons have been in the shop for quite some time now, and I would like to know if they are worth refining.
Yeah, every weapon's worth refining. What do you mean?
Seka, you don't seem to understand. I'm free to play, and I want to know if it's worth my master, the Star Glitter.
Yeah, I get you, fam. All right, let me, coffee and...
Seka, you're sick. No coffee for you.
Wait, what do you mean?
It's time for tea. No!
Alrighty, boys and grills. So this video, we're going to be talking about the Blackcliff Warbow at R5. I'm going to compare it to the Stringless bow. I'm going to be doing this, of course, comparing it between different characters. I'm going to be comparing it with Venti, Fischl, and Ganyu. But unfortunately, I can't do Tartaggles because my Tartaggles is level 6. So I won't really be able to show you the differences between Tartaggles and other Tartaggles. But eventually I might build them. But I haven't had the resources to build them. I've been building out lots of different characters, so we may do that at some point. But for this video, we're going to be talking about the differences for Blackcliff bow for all three of these characters. And I'm going to show you the stat differences between the two. And we'll be showing them at Refine 1, Refine 5, and checking out the Stringless as well. So for this test, I'm going to be using very similar things across the board. I'm going to be using two different accounts to do these tests, and what I did was I tried to mirror the stats as best I could. So right now I have Venti on my free-to-play account with 1735 attack for the Stringless variant. He's going to have a level 90 Stringless R1, so it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to have an 80. We're going to have an 80 ascended Stringless as well as an 80 ascended Blackcliff Warbow at R1 and R5 on the other account, but this is the only one that's gonna be a little bit higher. Overall artifacts in this account, this one, it's got a 4-piece Viridescent it says 4-piece Viridescent Viriner just on both accounts. Here's the actual artifacts I'm gonna be using. And this is the stat ratio I have right now, 30% crit rate as well as 167 crit damage. On the other account, I believe that's like 168. I'll show you. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and use this right away. I'm gonna go ahead and use a Stringless with nothing else on it. See, it's hitting for about 1760 on the procs inside and about 200 in each of the Stringless procs. Okay, let me do that. And then I'm gonna go ahead and use an ultimate here from Bennett. And then I will go ahead and use this, and it hits for about 3300 with the Venti proc. Well, and each of the tests is going to be very similar to the situation where we're just basically using two different procs to test the overall damage. But about 2400 on the maximum damage that we can get from Stringless on the ulti, and about 1600 otherwise. So that's the damage ratios we're going to be looking at from the baseline from Stringless versus Blackcliff Warbow and the other bows. On both accounts, I also got my elemental mastery as low as possible with about 23 with a 24 with no weapon, and with a weapon somewhere in the like one with the Stringless weapon about 168 over here, 31%. So you can see about a 1% difference for crit damage. It's not going to be a huge difference in overall damage at the same EM ratio. With if I do put on the correct resonance, I'll have the same amount of attack. Now with the pyro resonance on, I can say about 1695 versus 1710, so I'll have marginally less with the R1 Stringless. So the R1 Stringless even gets a weighted amount where it gets an increased base attack value because it's at level 82 versus level 80, and then it also has the increase from being level 90 weapon. So I'm doing this again with the Stringless here, and I'll be doing the tests, of course, with R1 through R5 Blackcliff over here. So I'll be showing off those as well in this video. I would show an R1 Stringless off on the same account that I'm using everything on because it make it a little bit easier, but unfortunately, I don't want to spend Mystic Enhancement on a second Stringless. It's just a waste of resources for just a small showcase for the test, so I got the stats as close as possible. I mean, why would you level a second Stringless? Especially since I want to try out Viridescent Hunt and Rust and some other characters so you can do more video showcases for you guys. It is time to test Blackcliff at R1. So I didn't know this until I was doing this test, but Venti's ultimate is actually snapshotted at the moment he casts it. So whatever your stats are at that time, even though there's a damage over time effect, it's completely snapshotted. So that's really interesting that the tests I was doing were not that were conditional, or actually I did the first test wrong. I didn't even notice that. See? Isn't that crazy? All right, so then we're doing our inverted test. So we're gonna go with this. Right? Get our energy back. Did we get kills yet? Yeah, we get kills. Alright. So now we're gonna go E, Q, and then we're gonna ulti. And here's the snapshot. You can see the damage difference because Blackcliff is now proccing inside the swirl, and I don't have to worry about it because now I get even more damage. So Blackcliff at R1 is equivalent to Stringless R5 on the damage procs because of the snapshot. This is why we do so many. This is why we do tests.
All right, let's do Stringless R5. That's Stringless R5. Alright, let's see what starts it in. Because I think it'll ramp higher. Because Venti gets kills, right? It's better. Blackcliff is better. Yeah? Black? Yeah, Blackcliff R1 is better, look. And when you get kills, it gets even better. Yeah, Blackcliff is better, for sure. 100%. No question. That's what I thought. I was like actually curious about this, but Blackcliff R1 is better than Stringless R1. Good to know. Okay, so in this test, we're doing a comparison between Stringless on the left here and Blackcliff on the right. The Blackcliff, you can see, is going to do a little bit more damage in general than the Stringless, but not too much. And the Stringless is actually going to outstrip the Blackcliff overall when you're comparing it to the swirl damage. The swirl damage is really where the Blackcliff starts to fall off from the Stringless. Now, what I've seen, and this is, again, with Blackcliff with 0 stacks. When Blackcliff starts to get stacks, however, the Blackcliff does start to do more damage in general, and the damage actually starts to catch up between both variants. The Stringless at R1 versus the Blackcliff R1 at max stacks is actually almost the exact same amount of damage. And what's really interesting between the two weapons here is that what I was going to think initially is that the Stringless would just completely dominate because of the elemental mastery as well as the elemental skill damage as well as elemental burst damage. But seeing how the damage gets pretty linear here between the comparisons, I was actually kind of surprised to know that the Blackcliff R1 is actually a very good weapon for Venti. And what's very interesting in general is that most people have never even tried this, and I thought it was a really cool option. All right, Blackcliff R5 test 2. Let me mute alerts real quick. Boom. All right, with resonance, we're starting at 2200. Okay, so we're gonna do this to boost the crit chance. We're gonna do this. We're gonna drop an E. 9890. 4K now. 29K. That's a big difference. Yeah, Blackcliff OP. So on this current test, what we can see is that the Blackcliff Warbow does more raw damage, but does less swirl damage than the Stringless. And the swirl damage from the Stringless, as you can see, is about 400 overall damage per tick, higher than on the Blackcliff weapons, somewhere between 300 to 400. And if you look at the overall damage that's being dealt, it's about 300 to 400 less in general already in both respects. So we can see that the Blackcliff Warbow is completely comparable to the Stringless and almost has linear damage across the board. However, the major difference that I found for Venti was that the damage that you get for your E ability or hold E ability, whatever you're going to do for your damage, is significantly higher than what you can get for a Stringless on the Blackcliff versus the Stringless. So if you wanted to get overall higher damage, the Blackcliff is a better option. But with elemental reactions inside of a swirl, that's where the damage starts to get a little bit closer together, and that's where you start seeing the Stringless to start do better than the Blackcliff. The massive advantage I believe Stringless has over the Blackcliff Warbow in general is that you can actually use this weapon and you don't have to worry about getting stacks on the weapon, which is a huge, mindset change, which is really, really nice. So between the two weapons, if you don't have a Stringless, the Blackcliff Warbow is actually a comparable option. Now I'm going to go into some other characters actually, and I'll show you guys how good the Blackcliff Warbow is on other characters at R5, R1 and R5, and you can actually see the differences and how good it actually is. Fischl with Blackcliff R1. Okay, Fischl. That ratio, Fizz R1 with 158 Fizz bonus. Alright. We're just gonna do no superconducts right now. This is decent. Not bad. I mean, it's not insane, but it's definitely not bad. Alright, let's go ahead and use some reductions and stuff. And boost it. Oh, expect. It's cool as the damage kind of gets boosted in weird ways. Just getting juggled though. Because of the domain. So to do another test, what I did was I used Ganyu in order to figure out if the Blackcliff Warbow is going to be a good option for her. And I've been telling players that Blackcliff Warbow is a great option for her, but I wanted to test it out between R1 and R5 for Ganyu. And what I can see is that this weapon is great for Ganyu, but what I didn't know before I started testing it is the artifact set actually really matters for this weapon. Now, typically for Ganyu, you can either use a Wanderer's Troop set or a Cryo set, and you'd be pretty good off if you're gonna maximize your charge shots versus maximize your overall damage in other ways. But what I found out is that the Amos bow actually makes it so that the Wanderer set looks way, way better on Ganyu in general. For her, but whenever I'm using the Blackcliff Warbow, I feel like I definitely have to use the Cryo set, and I tried multiple tests, and I found that the Wanderer set was actually worse in general than the Blackcliff for a Blackcliff weapon. That was that's not bad, dude. R5 Blackcliff Ganyu, that's not bad. That's a fucking mad lad. That's pretty good. All right, so now we're going to test Fischl out between R1 and R5 Blackcliff. And so from what I can see, the damage ramp is pretty high. I actually got higher crits on Fischl for Blackcliff R5 than I did, I think, ever for Amos bow. But I haven't checked in a long time for Amos bow, but I'm pretty sure that my Blackcliff crits are higher than any Amos crits that I've ever done ever at R5 Blackcliff once I get max stack. So, tenuous statement, Blackcliff R5 is better than Amos R3 for Fischl. I don't know. I haven't done full testing on that. I might even have to do a full video on that to check it out. But just by a glance here, from what I can see, Blackcliff R5 is kind of a mad lad weapon on Fischl. I'm not gonna lie. It's actually not bad. I really dug it. The damage increase from the ramp from his main DPS for Fischl. Unexpectedly, this was my favorite character to use it for. So that was really cool. Just I think going to be better because I just think when I think about Rust and I think about the massive amount of normal attack that you get here, I just think it's going to be clearly better. I don't know for certain, but I'm like 90% sure. Unfortunately, though, that's not the entire part of Fischl's kit, and part of Fischl's kit relies on you getting crit damage and crit chance, and not a lot of people are going to be able to get to high refines on this. But the same can be said true of Rust. Between the two weapons, I don't know which one's better. I honestly don't. I haven't tested both of them, and I don't have the Mystic to do both because it takes so many resources. But for Fischl, it's a good weapon. I will say it's fine. I won't say it's the best. I won't even say it's close to Amos bow or anything like that, but it's good. For Venti, though, I would still say the Stringless at Refine 5 is better than a Blackcliff at R1. But a Stringless at Refine 1, though, I would actually not be sure about. Because right now, on the first test, we were testing between Blackcliff R1 and Stringless R5. So I did see that, of course, the Stringless did more damage, and I knew that it was going to do more damage at R5. But at R1, I would assume this damage would be much lower because you're getting 24% increased elemental skill damage and burst versus the actual amount of 33% crit damage here. So because you get an increasing scaling amount of attack percentage over the amount of kills that you've gotten with your Venti, potentially you could actually have higher damage at high refines. And this is the thing I'm most curious about. The thing that I learned the most was when using Ganyu. I actually learned something really interesting about Ganyu while playing her with the Wanderer's troop set versus using the other set. And the thing I learned was that with Ganyu, if you don't have an Amos bow, going with a 4-piece Wanderer's troop set is actually a horrible option because you're not going to get as big spike damage as you would with an Amos bow. And even when you do get the reactions off and you get the big surge damage, all the other hits feel like they're a lot lower and they don't feel as powerful. So going with a 4-piece cryo set, if you're going to be going with a Blackcliff Warbow, is a better option in my opinion, and I really felt the weighted difference between using a Blackcliff as well as using both sets. So I felt like it was definitely a better option, and I felt way more powerful with the cryo set. So by learning that, I had no idea this was even the case because before I'd only really used Amos bow and Stringless for my Ganyu, but after using the Blackcliff Warbow, I can see a lot of people that do use Ganyu will have a different experience with different sets. All right, guys, my name is Sekapoko. Thank you so much for watching. I actually learned a lot this video myself. I did not know that the player experience could definitely change so heavily with just this one weapon for certain characters. And it's really cool to see that by trying out different weapons and different refines, you can have different experiences. It's Stringless R1, Blackcliff R1, Stringless R5, Blackcliff R5. All these differences are really, really cool. And I definitely think Blackcliff is an attainable weapon on free-to-play as well as budget players. On my current budget account for Battle Pass and Vulcan only, I actually just got my first Refined 5 sword, and I will be doing a showcase with one of those characters coming up soon. So I'm excited to check out a Blackcliff Refined 5 sword, and I'll also be doing a polearm showcase for Zhao as well at some point. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, guys. Peace.